This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, this is Don Farber speaking on behalf of ECI Software Solutions and Sage Alerts and Workflow. And I'd like to welcome you to this presentation on Sage Alerts and Workflow version 10, how you can achieve actionable insight. Let's begin with a definition. Actionable insight is the process of automating the detection of and the response to critical, time-sensitive business conditions within your organization. Actionable insight addresses the two kinds of tasks that take up the majority of an ERP software user's time. Actionable insight automates the processing of expected data, while it also automates the identification of and response to unexpected data, also known as exception management. Let's begin with actionable insight for the processing of expected data. You and your colleagues spend a lot of time processing expected data. Whether it's sales orders, purchase orders, or shipments, there are a lot of transactions that occur on a daily basis. And in fact, processing expected data typically comes down to the generation and delivery of relevant content. And what I'd like to do now is to drill down into one specific of these scenarios: the generation and delivery of invoices. Because if you sell products or services to customers, you have to invoice those customers. So let me ask you this: whose job is it to run and review the reports of invoices coming due? Whose job is it to generate and deliver those invoices? Whose job is it to check to see if clients are past due? And whose job is it to put clients on credit hold if they fail to pay for their invoices in a timely manner? If your answer to these questions is one of my staff or even me, consider a system that automates tasks like this one, increasing your staff's available time to grow your business. Now let's move on to actionable insight for the identification of and response to unexpected data. You and your colleagues spend a lot of time analyzing data and looking for and responding to pain points, anomalies, and exceptions. And if you don't think you spend a lot of time doing this, let me ask you the following question. If you open up your top desk drawer, is there at least one highlighter pen there, and probably in yellow? Whether it's keeping on top of stock shortages, lot expirations, shipping delays, or customers who have stopped buying or have changed their buying habits, keeping up on unexpected data is a critical activity. And let's focus on just one of these for the moment. If you keep stock, chances are you occasionally run out of stock. And so let me ask you these questions. Whose job is it to review stock status, and how often does that review need to occur? Whose job is it to decide whether purchase orders should be created? Whose job is it to review and approve pending purchase orders? Whose job is it to submit those POs to the appropriate suppliers? And lastly, whose job is it to keep track of ordered items to make sure they arrive on time and with a minimum of damage? If the question is who does these tasks, let the answer be Sage Alerts and Workflow. Because Alerts and Workflow has insight into your expected business activities as well as your pain points, exceptions, and anomalies. And Alerts and Workflow automatically responds to both expected and unexpected activities by notifying the appropriate people, generating and delivering the right information and documents, triggering additional research, and going back into your Sage and other business applications to update them with the details of what has happened and what has to happen. If we take a look at the components of Sage Alerts and Workflow, it begins by automatically monitoring your Sage ERP, CRM, HR, and related applications for any business conditions that are important to your organization. When such conditions occur, Sage Alerts and Workflow automatically notifies the appropriate people, automatically generating and delivering relevant forms and documents, automatically triggering additional analytics, which can be in a graphical format, and finishing up by automatically updating your Sage applications with the details of what's occurred. So now let's take a look at Sage Alerts and Workflow version 10. Sage Alerts and Workflow version 10 is a 100% browser-based application. Everything that you need to do, everything that you need to know is all done from this one browser window. It's worth noting that Sage Alerts and Workflow version 10 is a .NET application which stores its data in a Microsoft SQL Server environment. Let's now take a look at how a typical event is configured in Alerts and Workflow. We'll drill down into our Sage ERP application and take a look at some of the accounts receivable related events. Note that for all Sage applications, Alerts and Workflow comes pre-configured with a robust collection of events that you can use and customize, as well as create additional events of your own. So let's scroll through a few of these accounts receivable related events, and let's take a look at the one which is triggered based upon invoices that are overdue for more than 90 days. So everything in Alerts and Workflow is based upon authorizations and permissions. We have full access to view and configure this event. Every event consists of 5 major components. Those 5 components listed on the left-hand side of the current window. We see that the description of this event is invoices that are overdue for more than 90 days. And it's worth noting that we've turned a function called repeat on. What that means is that when this event runs and sends its alerts about overdue invoices, the next time the event runs, if some of those same invoices are still overdue, Alerts and Workflow will generate another or repeat notification. Now let's stop next at the schedule for this event. It is scheduled to run every Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, different business conditions need to be monitored at different intervals. For example, monitoring stock for reorder conditions probably need to be monitored more frequently than once a week, maybe every hour, every 30 minutes, or even continuously. It's worth noting also that with Alerts and Workflow, you can tell it what are the work days and work hours, as well as your organization's holidays. Let's stop next on the trigger for this particular event. This event is triggering on invoices that are more than X days overdue, and for this particular event, we've specified a threshold of 90 days. Please note that Alerts and Workflow has a number of ways it can read data from underlying applications, whether it's through queries, such as done through ODBC, OLADB, or .NET Database Provider, and also through web service APIs, as Sage Alerts and Workflow includes a REST web API, enabling it to monitor conditions in hosted or cloud-based applications, as well as monitoring conditions in websites. Let's move on to see how this event is responding to those overdue invoices when they occur. Referred to as an event's deliverables, this event has 3. It's generating a pie chart showing us the total overdue invoices per sales rep. This event is also automatically regenerating an invoice for a customer. Please note that Sage Alerts and Workflow supports both Crystal reports and Microsoft SQL Server reporting services, as well as integration with third-party reporting tools, such as Sage Intelligence and Sage Enterprise Intelligence. This event is also generating an email alert, and let's take a closer look at that email. If we want to generate a nice-looking email alert message, we'll probably jump right into Sage Alerts and Workflow HTML Wizard Editor. You don't have to know any kind of HTML syntax or any programming language whatsoever to design nice-looking email alerts like this one. But email is not the only method by which Sage Alerts and Workflow can deliver alerts. If we look at all of the available deliverables for this particular event, we'll see that alerts can be sent via email, via text message to cell phone, as well as via dynamic web dashboard, which we refer to as webcasting. As I mentioned earlier, This event can trigger any combination of charts and reports, and most importantly, every event has the ability to go back into an application, whether it's from Sage or other vendors, and add or update information in that underlying database. For example, if Sage Alerts and Workflow sees that a client has past due invoices, it can put that client on credit hold within the ERP system. Likewise, if Sage Alerts and Workflow sees that an item is approaching its reorder level, Alerts and Workflow can generate a purchase order for that item. The last component of an event is its subscribers or alert recipients. This particular event is notifying a combination of standard and advanced subscribers. A standard subscriber is when you know the name of the person or the group whom you wish to notify, and you can choose to notify them via one or more methods. But when we consider this event, looking at invoices that are more than 90 days past due, probably the two most important people for us to notify are the customer who has the overdue invoice and the salesperson who's responsible for that customer. If we take a look at an alert message generated by Sage Alerts and Workflow, we can see the resulting output. Here we've got an alert message about invoices that are coming due within 30 days. Once again, we're looking at a nicely designed HTML alert message with a supporting chart to add additional detail. Let's now go back into our PowerPoint for some last comments. With Sage Alerts and Workflow, you can greatly enhance the human capital that is available to your organization. For example, if you have 6 ERP users utilizing Sage Alerts and Workflow, and Alerts and Workflow automates only 20 minutes worth of their tasks that used to be done manually in a given day, at the end of the year, you're looking at 66 days of employee time that you have regained. Sage Alerts and Workflow really is that invisible assistant of yours, and we very much encourage you to try out the application. On behalf of ECI Software Solutions and Sage Alerts and Workflow, I'm Don Farber, and I thank you very much for your time and interest.